Yes, hi everyone. I welcome you all to today's session. This is Africa Matters, and my name is Christabel N Netondo. I'm a finalist at Moi University main campus, and I'm also a youth advocate. I advocate for youth inclusion into social impact activities, and I'm also passionate about the Sustainable Development Goals with focus on SDG 11 on reducing inequalities. So welcome all to today's webinar. So I'll just go straight to sharing my screen to give us a guideline on how we are going to navigate this platform and how we're going to interact throughout this session. Yeah, thank you all. Just a minute. As I had introduced earlier, this is Africa Matters, and I'll be taking us through a discussion on youth input towards social impact, or rather youth involvement towards social impact. And just to start us off on the Zoom platform, I'm going to share some housekeeping rules. We have the audio facility that is at the bottom left of your screen. It will enable you to mute and unmute in order to give your input or any contribution that you might have towards the presentation. We have the question and answer facility, that is the chat facility on your bottom right, whereby in case you have any question, any feedback, or rather any comment, you can give it up and I'll be able to see from my end and respond to it accordingly. And also this webinar is being recorded. You can also access it on our YouTube channel, that is at Africa Matters, just for reference and in case you need to clarify on some issues. And then on our agenda today, I've done the roll call, so I'm going to do a presentation for 15 minutes concerning the topic, which is on youth input towards social impact. And then we look at the question and answer session, whereby if you have any comment or feedback in relation to our topic of discussion, you can actually just feel free to send in your question. And then we'll have our closing remarks, which will bring us to the end of our webinar today. So welcome all and feel free to take part in our discussion. And for those who are just joining us today, as I had said earlier, my name is Christabel N Netondo. I'm from Kenya. I'm a finalist at Moi University in Kenya, taking a degree leading to an education profession as a teacher. Besides that, I'm passionate about youth inclusion and youth participation in social impact activity. And with such, I've been able to take part in leadership programs such as the Young African Leadership Initiative for the East Africa. I've been able to take part in the Cocktail Colleague of the 2018 and the African Changemakers. Besides that, I am a youth advocate. I advocate for the inclusion of young people into social impact activities. And I also run an organization that aims at empowering young people on the need of taking part into this social impact activity for the prosperity of our society. And just to start us off, I would like to share with you as to why have I decided on the youth and not other demographic dividend. We see that our topic today is centered on youth inclusion into social impact activity and why the youth and not any other demographic dividend. We see that the young people take up the largest population in the world. This means that if this opportunity can be tapped into, a lot of impact can be able to be realized in our society. Over 70% of our country's population is up with young people. What this means is that if every young person can decide to take up a course, be it on environmental degradation, any form of social injustice, then you are able to see change that will be able to positively impact our society. I also focused on the youth because you see that young people, they are more authentically connected to these problems, unlike the other age gap, because it is these young people who are at the center of these problems. It is these young people who face these problems daily as they try to get a shift between work and their careers and other school lives. So yes, youths are more centered into these social problems and they're the ones who have the capability to solve them. Another reason as to why I decided to focus on young person, besides me being a young person, of course, is because we're the ones who are going to be most affected by these social issues if nothing is going to be done. Because assuming you're 15 years right now, in the next 10 years, are going to be 25 years. And in between those 10-year gap, we are facing climate change. This means that you're going to be consistently facing that problem for the whole of your life if you can't start advocating for that cause if you're a young person. And if I'm also to quote a statesman, this is a former president from the United States, who say that the problems of the world requires the quality of young people. And I strongly believe in that, because the qualities of young people, as we have seen, as such as innovation and creativity. And even in our current situation, currently in our pandemic, we see that a lot of solutions that have been brought forth towards this COVID-19 are solutions which have been effected by young people. These are solutions which have been brought about by young people in the world. And if not being brought by a young person, it is a young person who is co-leading. So yes, young people are the most innovative, they're the most creative beings that have come across, and this makes them a potential and a very good demographic to be able to solve some of these social issues. And those are just some of the 4 reasons as to why I've decided to focus on the youth and not on the other demographic dividend. So I'm going to share my screen and just to give us a guideline on how we are going to, the topic that we are going to discuss on, besides youth inclusion and the participation of youth. I'm going to look at how important is it that the young people can take part in social transformation and why the youth. And on that, I've been able to center that is because young people are more authentically connected to their societies, which means that they have access to these problems, that they're the ones who face these problems on a daily basis. And then young people take up to the largest population in the society that we live in today, in that if every young person can take up a cause to advocate for them, our society is going to improve to the better. Besides, we're the ones who are going to be most affected by this social issue. And if we do nothing about it, then we'll be greatly affected. And then the last reason I gave as to why I've decided to choose on the youth is because the youth are the most productive, they're the most creative, most energetic, and the most innovative beings that I've come across in my 23 years existence in this world. And yes, leading us to our next discussion is, how can these young people be actively involved in social transformation activities? Social transformation activities, I'll outline it, as it's the participation being made to your society with the aim of bringing change. Any participation that you decide to be held on, be it trying to come up with a campaign that is going to fight environmental degradation, trying to advocate for access of sanitary towels to young schoolgirls in Ghana or in Kenya, all those are transformation which are aimed at changing the way our society is structured, changing the way the systems have been placed, trying to break those barriers to ensure that every individual in the society is equally and is justly and resiliently living. And how can you as a young person today take part in transforming a society? One way, and I'm going to give this basing on my experience and basing on how I've been able to take part in social impact activities. And one way is through joining a youth targeted initiative. If not a youth targeted initiative, then you are at par to join a community-based initiative. These are the initiatives that align with the cause that you are passionate about. If you're passionate about the environment, we have the Green Belt movement, we have the Wangari Maathai Foundation in Kenya that you can join and help advocate for that cause, help advocate for fight against pollution and deforestation. So joining a community initiative will enable you to take part actively in transforming our societies. You may not see that impact at the moment, but 10 years, 20 years, those people, the beneficiaries of your actions, are the ones who will be able to see and be truly grateful that you took part in changing our society. And then another way in which you can actively take part in transforming our society is through advocating against social injustice. Social injustice can be in any form, like police brutality or through gender-based violence. All those are social injustices, actions which are not aimed at bringing equality to our society. And one way in which we can see that how young people have actively advocated in social injustice, if I'd give a recent case on the United States, we see that the last month, there have been an advocacy campaign on the Black Lives Matter, which has trended for the better part of last month due to the killings of one person of color in that state. We saw that besides just advocating for that cause, a lot of systems, a lot of structures, a lot of barriers that were placing young people towards opportunities and access to training were able to be broken because of young people's advocacy causes. And also we saw that it started as a movement of one state and it spread to the whole world. What this means is that young people have the power to transform their society if they're able to work collectively and collaboratively as a person. And then another way in which a young person can be able to actively take part in transforming their society is through volunteering their skills and experience. Skills and experience, if you're good at communication, you can take part in advocating for a cause and all that. And an example that I would like to give is from Kenya. There's a young blogger called Cynthia Nyongesa. She runs a blog called cynthiaantem.com, whereby she shares the stories of young people who are positively impacting their society. What Cynthia does is that she goes to the society, takes the stories of these young people and shares it to the rest of the world through her blog, and also try to give a media coverage to what these young people are doing. Cynthia volunteers her skills in communication and advocacy in helping the voices of these young people be reached and also to be heard beyond the spheres and the communities that they impact in. So yes, what Cynthia does is that she volunteers her skills to transform her society. And then another way in which you can take part in this transformation is through creating awareness and sensitization. Awareness and sensitization can be either online or offline. An example of an online sensitization campaign is that it happened last year in South Africa. We saw that in South Africa, there was an increase in the tuition fee charges for the tertiary institution. And what happened is that these young students from South Africa had to demonstrate peacefully and try to ensure that these fees fell. And as much as said as one university, we see that it spread to other universities in South Africa. And actually what happened is that the fees actually fell. The voices of these young people were able to be heard through creating awareness, which started as a Twitter hashtag, and it went to the society, and it was able to even reach the stakeholders involved in the society that they live in. And also another way in which we've seen that creating awareness and sensitization as a young person has gone through is an example I would give is on Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg is a teenage girl from Sweden. She's a climate change advocate, and we see that she started as a one-person movement. She was advocating for climate change in her country, and through that she was able to create awareness to the whole world. People were able to be informed on the impact of climate change if nothing was done. She was able to get the attention of the United Nations, and her organization Fridays for Future was able to reach out to the whole world. This was through her creation of awareness and sensitization. So yes, these are just 4 ways in which young people can take part. Another way in which you can take part is through starting your own initiative or starting your own campaign. And going on to our next presentation is that what value does it add to you as a young person? As a young person, be it you're in a university student or a high school, how does taking part in this activity help you as a person besides just growing and bringing that change to their society? One of the ways in which you're able to benefit is through the skills development. This can be through your interactions with those organizations and those initiatives. Skills such as program development, skills such as research, skills such as fundraising, public speaking skills, negotiations, are all skills that are brought forth because of your contribution to this organization. If you're going to volunteer to an organization in 6 months, you are sure that during that period, not only will you impact the society, but you're able to also leverage on the talent that is there and also acquire skills that will help you develop as a young person. Another reason as to why you need to take part and how it will benefit you taking part in social impact activities is that you're going to have peer recognition. And in this case is that if you have a voice, you're going to have your own personal brand. People are going to recognize you as a youth advocate. People are going to recognize you as a climate change advocate. And what does this mean to you as a young person is that in case there are going to be need or a call for young people to take part in shaping the way policies are made, shaping the way decisions are made in your society, you see that you're going to be picked because you have a brand already that shows that you are a health advocate, you're a community advocate, you're a climate change advocate. This is going to give you an edge over your peers. Another way in which taking part in social impact is going to help you is that you're going to have access to more opportunities. Opportunities can be in terms of work opportunities or even volunteer opportunities and growth opportunities as a young person. So yes, the more you position yourself, the more you're able to click on the right talent, the more you're able to click on the right corridors and have access to the right people who can be able to help you rise to the better. And then besides that, you're also going to see that as a young person, you're going to have meaningful networks and collaborations. And as they say that your network is really going to determine your net worth as a young person. It may not happen at the moment, a direct impact, but later on in future, it might help you because it is this network that you form at an early age that are going to help you in case you're going to need a project and you need to execute a project, an advocacy plan. It is the networks that you are able to interact with in those organizations that you're going to leverage on and help you to develop your program and project. Besides, you're going to have awareness of global social issues and current affairs. Giving myself as a case study is that, and before I started taking part in social impact activities, I really didn't know much about the Sustainable Development Goals. That was in 2015. And the SDGs, they were formulated in 2015. It wasn't until 2016 that I interacted with these SDGs. And how did I know about these global goals of the 2030? This is after I joined a social impact organization in my campus where we were discussing on the Sustainable Development Goals, social change, and all that. Then I was out like, hadn't I joined such a movement, maybe my exposure to the Sustainable Development Goals would have come late. Or yet still, I wouldn't have exposure to what our society will face, because prior to joining this organization, I didn't realize that even other societies face poverty, other societies face inequality, people are facing political injustices and all that. It was through my association with this initiative that I was able to be conversant with the social issues and the current affairs. Like currently, and I still give a case study of the Black Lives Matter. If you're taking part in these social impact activities, you're able to learn on how you're going to advocate for such causes. You're able to know how these young people are able to come up together and form a movement that transformed the world and is trying to break the structures and the systems and the barriers that has been placed to the people of color. And yes, those are just some of the values that you as a young person taking part in social impact will be able to add to you, besides just your own development. And also, besides just growing yourself as a person, the long run, or the long term, is that you're going to impact your society. You're going to change a course. You're going to ensure that your society is able to be just, and people in your society are going to have a resilient and peaceful coexistence among themselves. And just still to clarify on how on joining these social impact activities or joining these social organizations. Before joining an organization, what you need to consider is that consider your passion and interest. If you're passionate about the environment, why can't you join the Green Belt movement or the Wangari Maathai movement in Kenya? If you're passionate about education access to people in Africa, why can't you join One African Child? Because these are organizations that are advocating for the cause that you're more passionate about. And it's going to give you an advantage because you're able to leverage on your skills and your passion, and you'll be able to fit in faster and advocate for those causes. So yes, these are just some of the reasons as to why you need to take part in social impact activity, because you're going to grow as a young person. And yes, that would rather bring us to the end of my presentation today. Just in case you have any questions or clarifications, you can share them to the chat facility, and then I'll be able to respond to that. And then one last thing that I hadn't tackled on is that in as much as we're advocating for young people to join these social impact activities, to volunteer to their society, we see that young people themselves, they have their own challenges. And one of the challenges that prevents these young people to take part in these impact activities is that they lack access to training and skills development. How does this come about? If you don't have skills, if you don't have that talent, how are you going to be able to know the problems that your society face? It is through an education that will enable you to know that, yes, in Kenya, we have an issue with poverty in this particular slum. We have an influx of rural-urban migration. But education is going to expose you in a sense that you'll be able to understand and appreciate the fact that not only in Kenya do we face this problem is also being faced in South Africa. This problem is also going to be faced in Egypt. How can we collectively come together and bring a stop to this challenge? So yes, access to training, education, and development of skills are some of the challenges that are preventing young people in taking part in this social impact activity. Another thing is that access to opportunities. The way our systems have been structured, the way our governments have been structured is that most of them have really sidelined young people into their decision-making process. They have not included young people into these systems. Therefore, it does not give them an edge over other people. And therefore, this lack of access to opportunity acts as a barrier to them taking part in these social impact activities, or rather their exposure to how they can be able to access these opportunities. And what do young people need? Young people need impact stories. Young people need to be exposed to these trainings. They need to be exposed to opportunities that they'll be able to leverage for the benefit of their society. So yes, so that will bring us to the end of my presentation. And in case you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and give your input. Just a comment from Rian. She's saying that thank you for mentioning that one can take part in social impact in their area of interest. That is one thing that is hardly highlighted when we speak about youth participation in anything. And yes, I'll concur with that, because you need to downsize. You need to go down to, or rather specialize to, one interest that you can be able to leverage on, and one that can be of much benefit to you and also to your society. So yes, I greatly concur with you, Rian, on that. In case you have any questions, or rather just comments or suggestions on our topic of discussion.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Are you getting me?
Yeah, I'm getting you, Nathan.
Okay. Although I came rather late, but have learned something from what you've been saying. And actually, it is important for us youth to take part in social impact. So my question is, you realize that most of these social impact projects requires resources and fundings. So as a young person, what is the best way that you can advise me that I can use to get these resources and funding where I need maybe to use this funding? Because there are some of the things that you cannot do without money, and personal saving, or maybe the money that I make as a youth may not be enough. That was my question.
Okay, thank you, Nathan, for that question. And yes, resource mobilization, fundraising is an issue that it really prevents young people from taking part in these social impact activities. And as per me, what I would advise is that you can't start an initiative alone. And if you're able to partner and collaborate with the respective, say, government agencies or organizations that are working towards a mission that you're passionate about, then that is one way in which you can tap into funding opportunities, because you can't just go on to pitch directly to Bill or Melinda Gates. You need $10 million or stuff to start your organization. So how I would advise is that if you're going to partner with peer organizations whose mission align to yours, then through that, you can be able to leverage on the resources that they have and grow steadily or gradually towards standing on your own and being able to acquire funding. So yes, that will be my input. Unless there's any other contribution from Alu or Ompa towards that. And thank you.
Oh, okay. I think that with regards to financial and resources, the thing is, I think sometimes as young people, we spread ourselves too thin by trying to create initiatives in spaces where there's already initiatives, right? And I think that some initiatives already need the capacity that we have as young people. They need the skills that we have. And so if, like you said, collaborate with already existing initiatives and projects, then we don't spread the resources that are already there too thin, but rather we use them together as young people to create the change that we want to make. So if you, let's say you have an idea about like collecting stationery for schools nearby, instead of doing it on your own, you collaborate, as Christabel said, with other organizations within your community that are there. Then each one uses their network to get the same goal done. And that way, resources are an issue even for businesses that are making profit. So it means we then need to seek alternatives of how to take part in social impact projects without limiting ourselves to the resources that we don't have.
Yeah, thanks Alu for that. Yeah, trying to partner and collaborating will be able to, even just besides acquiring funding, we see that if you're going to partner with somebody, you're going to make more impact as compared to doing an initiative by your own. If you're partnering with an organization that is focused on trying to advocate for education, you're one in Ghana and then there's one in South Africa, you see that there's already an impact in Ghana and in South Africa. And like if you could have only done it single-handedly. So yes, I would still echo on Alu's that partnership and leveraging on those collaborations would be on benefits. And also just to keep the conversation going on the challenges, one of the challenges that I would say that I've experienced also being in this social impact organization is that there's a lot of manipulation, I'd say, or rather young people, they're not being appreciated for the value that they bring to the society, to those organizations. Yes, it's a volunteer opportunity. You are going to bring on board your skills and your experience, but there's a way in which organizations can structure themselves to support these young people instead of rather manipulating them or not giving them the required support that they need. So yes, besides funding, resources, I think manipulation is also one of the challenges that would rather prevent young people in taking part in these activities. So yes, the conversation is back to you. And Ompa, anything you'd like to say concerning the whole topic of discussion? All right, Alu, I'll bring it back to you. And I guess that will bring us to the end of today's session. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Ompa. Alu, kindly take over.
Thank you everyone for joining the webinar. And Christabel, thank you so much for sharing your input on how we as young people can create social impact. And I think one of the most important things that, as mentioned earlier, about us working with our research interests. Each one has their own, each one has their own interest in which they would like to work and do social impact in, you know. Some people are passionate about food, some people are passionate about housing. So there's so many issues and facets in which people can work with regards to social impact. And I think that is the one important thing that I took from today's webinar, to say it is okay for young people to work on what they are passionate about. And I think that also just it helps us grow as a continent, as from a different communities. And thank you so much for a very informative webinar.
Thank you so much, Alo. Okay, that will bring us, in case you have any concerns, this webinar is being recorded. You can visit the Africa Matters Initiative YouTube channel. You have access to the whole recording in case you joined in late. And you can also visit the Africa Matters social media platforms to interact with the works that we do and to learn more about the activities that Africa Matters does. And so thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Omfa. You are free to leave the meeting.
Maybe parting shot. I can give my parting shot.
Okay, you're free.
Yeah. I appreciate the answers. Actually, there is a lot we can do. And what you've said about utilizing our passion is what caught me. Like, I know when you use your passion, there is very high possibility that you won't be discouraged by the challenges that are usually along the way. So I think that
kindly come up again. I had the connectivity issues. Kindly pardon.
Okay, I said that
Yes.
issue of trying to capitalize on your passion, even as you do the social impact projects in your community. I think that is one of the best things, because as a youth, if you want maybe to bring change in your society and you are doing something that you are passionate about, there is a very high likelihood you will proceed with whatever you are doing up to the end without being hindered by the challenges that come along the way. I know most of us here have tried to do social impact projects before. So there are usually those challenges along the way. So you need to have those passion, and even partnering with other organizations, like in your case, maybe partnering with an organization that is in South Africa, Nigeria. So it can be a very good thing when it comes to mobilization of resources. And that is my parting shot.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes?
I was just, you said that there are some other materials on the website.
Yes, you're going to share the link to this, the recording of this webinar.
Because somebody like me came late, so I did not get the first part of the meeting. And I think it has been very interesting from what I'm hearing.
Yes, sure. The conversation has been very interesting because it has been youth-centered. And those of us who are here are youths, so it is a topic that is touching on what you do. So in order to get access to the previous content that we discussed, you can visit the Africa Matters YouTube channel. This recording will be available there, and it's also live on Facebook, so we have other people attending from the Facebook session and streaming from our YouTube channel. So yes, you can visit there to get access to this material.
Okay, thank you, Christabel. Thank you, Christabel. Thank you, Alu and Omfa. I'm sure we shall continue interacting in the course of this program.
Thank you very much. And you're free to leave the meeting. Thank you.